Chapter 1. 35 Years of Dedication. I've spent my whole life living for other people. I got married, had a son, took care of my husband, then my child. And now that I'm old, now that it should be my turn to be cared for, I've suddenly realized, no one is waiting to take care of me. My name is Lin Chiolon and I'm 63 years old. I've been living with my son and his family for 35 years. At first I moved in just to help. My daughter-in-law was pregnant and my son said she might need support. "Could you stay a few months to help Mom?" he asked. I said yes without a second thought. Back then it felt natural. Of course I'd help. A pregnant woman is vulnerable, and as someone who's been through it, I understood what she needed. Besides, he's my son. He calls me Mom. How could I not be there? But those few months turned into decades. When the baby was born, I was the one who took care of everything. Late-night feedings, dirty diapers, doctor's visits. I handled it all. My daughter-in-law said she was too weak to help. That made sense. Postpartum care is important. Then came the second child. I didn't complain. I quietly moved into the smallest guest room and woke up early every day to cook, clean, do laundry, take the kids to and from school. Like a machine that never breaks, never complains. They didn't worry about a thing because they had me. But no one ever asked me, "Are you tired?" I never dared say, "I don't want to do this." I never said, "I want to travel," or, "I need a break." Because in this house, my identity was already written in stone. You're the grandma. You're the mother-in-law. You're the mom. You're not you. I kept telling myself, just hang in there. When the kids are older, they'll understand. But the day I got sick, I finally realized they didn't learn gratitude. They learned entitlement. Chapter 2. I just said I want to rest. That day my arms ached and even walking felt hard. I went to the hospital. The doctor took one look at my x-ray and said, "You've got joint degeneration. You need to take it easy, rest." So that evening after dinner, I gathered my courage and quietly told them, "I think I'd like to rest for a while. Maybe go stay with my sister in the countryside and get some fresh air. Just until I feel a little better." I thought they'd say something like, "Mom, you've worked so hard for so long. You deserve a break." I was wrong. My daughter-in-law was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. She didn't even look up. "What did you say? Rest? Now?" I nodded. The doctor recommended it. She finally put her phone down and said flatly, "Then who's going to take the kids to school? Who's going to clean the house? If you leave now, who's supposed to keep this place running?" I froze for a moment. I'm not saying I'll never come back. I just need some time to recover. Then my son spoke. His tone was gentle, but every word cut deep. "Mom, can't you just wait a little longer? Didn't you say things would get easier once little Bao starts school? It's just 2 more years. Hang in there." I looked at their faces and suddenly realized something. To them, I'm not a family member. I'm a tool. As long as I can move, I can't stop. But the doctor said my joints. I tried to explain. Then just avoid the stairs. Work slower. Or we could get you a knee brace. All their suggestions had the same message. You can't leave. I didn't argue anymore. I just quietly cleared the table and went into the kitchen to wash the dishes. As my hands soaked in the hot water, a thought sank in. This house, it never welcomed me, the person. It only welcomed me, the labor. That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned for hours. At 3 a.m. I got up and quietly opened the drawer. I pulled out something I'd kept for years. The deed to my old house. A small rundown place on the edge of town. My late husband and I bought it before our son got married. After the wedding, I moved out to live with them. But I never gave up that house. It's old. It's tiny. But it has my name on it. I held that deed in my hand and heard my daughter-in-law's voice echo in my head. "If you leave now, who's going to keep this place running?" That's when it hit me. She never saw me as family. She saw me as a gear, a part that has to keep spinning. And for the first time I realized something. I'm not just sick. I'm waking up. Chapter 3. Signature on the nursing home agreement. It all happened so fast it almost felt planned. The very next morning my son said, "Mom, Xiaolin and I talked. Since you want to rest, why don't we check out this retirement center? It's perfect for recovery, built just for seniors." He handed me a brochure. The photos showed rolling green lawns, white buildings with red roofs, and smiling elderly people sipping tea and playing chess. It looked peaceful. I hesitated. I was really just thinking of staying with my sister for a few days. This seems a bit much. Mom, her place is out in the middle of nowhere. And it's too run down, my son said gently. Didn't you say you wanted to recover properly? This place is professional. Xiaolin, my daughter-in-law, chimed in helpfully. And this center was recommended by one of my co-workers. It's really trustworthy. A few months there won't cost much. You can rest easy and we'll handle everything at home. She spoke so confidently, like I was some kind of employee being properly reassigned. I didn't want to go, but their insistence was unshakable. Every word was coded in "We're doing this for you." So, I gave in. 2 days later they took me to see the place. It really was nice. Trimmed grass, bright rooms, friendly staff smiling at every corner. But something about their eyes unsettled me. They didn't look at me like a guest. They looked at me like a package being dropped off. Before we left, Xiaolin pulled me aside and said, "Just sign some paperwork real quick to reserve your spot. It's just a room reservation," she smiled. "You can cancel any time." I picked up the pen ready to sign. Then I noticed something in the fine print on the last page. Guarantor, Lin Qiulan's self. Below that a line read, "Agrees to support payments via personal assets or direct family-linked property transfers." My heart skipped a beat. What does this mean? "Oh, Mom, it's just legal boilerplate," my son said casually. "We need it to connect with your insurance info. It won't affect your old house, it's just formality." I hesitated. For a second. Then I signed. They were thrilled. That night, Xiaolin posted a photo on social media with the caption, "Got Mom settled in a luxury wellness center. Finally she can relax and enjoy her golden years." And all I felt was cold. Back at home I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. When no one was around, I opened the laptop and did a quick search on the facility. A news headline popped up. Luxury retirement center sued for unauthorized asset transfers last year. My hands started trembling. That sentence stabbed into my chest like a needle. I grabbed the contract from my bag and read those lines again. It was a trap so carefully hidden. And then I remembered. Xiaolin had handed me her own pen to sign the form. A special kind. The ink was faint, almost invisible. And I never received a copy of the agreement. Chapter 4. The grandma's eye-rolling incident goes viral on the internet. I thought signing that agreement meant they were really going to let me rest, take care of me for once. But no. It was all just a pretty excuse to push me out of the picture. On the third day at the retirement center, I received a notice. The property transfer had gone through. My house had been signed over to my son Lin Yu. The reason? Used as collateral for luxury elder care payments. That house was where my late husband and I lived for 30 years. We poured everything we had into it. I called them. No one picked up. When I finally reached Lin Yu, he said coldly, "Mom, this is all for your benefit. We're sacrificing a lot too. Don't be selfish." Selfish? I gave you 30 years of my life. My mind was spinning. But what broke me completely wasn't the house. It was a video. That night, one of the nurses slipped me a phone. "Ma'am, you might want to see this. Your grandson posted it." I tapped play and felt my whole body go numb. The video showed me sitting on a couch, looking tired. There was a brief moment where I glanced sideways at my daughter-in-law. They zoomed in, added slow motion, then slapped a giant sticker over it. "Grumpy grandma has entered the chat, old woman lights gone." Then came my grandson's voiceover. "Look at this. Just got her into a high-end nursing home and she's already giving attitude." You'd think my parents owe her $8 million. The video cut to his mom cooking in the kitchen while I sat silently in the background. Caption: guess who's really doing all the work? The comments were brutal. Ungrateful elderly living off her kids and still complaining? She thinks she's royalty or what? Get a job, grandma. Stop mooching. I froze. My grandson, was using me for content. The boy I cared for, protected, spoiled. He was mocking me, dragging my name through the dirt just to go viral. My chest tightened. My vision went dark. I nearly fainted. My hands shook as I held the phone, not with anger, with grief. I finally saw it clearly. To them I wasn't family. I was a prop, a tool, a villain to be cast for online views. The next morning the head nurse pulled me aside. Ms. Lin, due to some recent online controversies, we suggest you avoid common areas for now. We just want to keep the atmosphere here comfortable for everyone. I smiled. 1 month ago I was the beloved angel mother-in-law on their social media. 1 week ago I was the grateful mom resting comfortably. Well, I was a PR problem. I never hurt anyone. But suddenly even the air didn't want me around. I quietly asked the nurse, "Can I bring a pet here?" She shook her head. "No pets allowed." "What about a piano?" She frowned. "Not really feasible." And that's when I understood. This place was never meant to help me heal. It was meant to keep me quiet. Chapter 5. The day the live broadcast account was successfully registered, I smiled. That night I lay in bed for hours, wide awake. I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt lighter. Like something had finally let go. I didn't have to smile through the pain anymore. Didn't have to pretend I wasn't tired or hurt or angry. For the first time in my life I could just be me. But I also knew this. If I stayed silent, that video would become the only version of me the world ever saw. People would remember the grandma who rolled her eyes. The one who lived off her son and didn't say thank you. The one who sat around while others worked. They'd never know I spent 30 years cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, raising kids, paying off their loans. That I gave up my own retirement savings, my hobbies, my freedom. They wouldn't know that I was a widow who raised a son on her own. That my real joys weren't managing a household but playing piano, painting, and gardening. If I didn't speak, no one else would. So I got up and pulled out my old laptop. I searched the platform where my grandson posted the video. I made an account. Username at Justin Finger. Profile photo. A picture of me holding baby Lin Yu, my son, when he was 2 years old. The interface was confusing. I clicked everything twice. Took me a while, but I finally figured out how to start a live stream. At 2:15 a.m. the camera flickered on. I looked at the woman on the screen. White hair, wrinkles from time. But her eyes. Clear. Strong. And then I smiled. Not the polite, "I'm fine" smile. Not the "yes dear" smile. It was real. I hit go live. My first words were, "Hi everyone. I'm the so-called grumpy grandma from that viral video." But that clip? That was just one frame from my life. Now it's time I told you the full story. No one was watching at first. Didn't matter. I kept talking. I told them how I raised my son after losing my husband. How I moved in to help. How I worked from sunrise to midnight, unpaid and unacknowledged. I didn't cry. I didn't rant. I just spoke. Calm and clear. Then a few people started to join. Someone typed, "She sounds so calm. She's not at all like that video made her seem. My mom's like this too. She never complains." Then, "I'm sorry. We judged too fast. Please keep going. I want to hear more." I nearly choked up. Someone wanted to hear my voice. Before I ended the stream, I looked into the lens and said, "I won't let anyone else edit my life again. From now on, I direct my own story." Chapter 6. Second live broadcast. She opened the property certificate. I honestly thought no one had watched my first live stream. But the next morning I opened the dashboard and froze. The video had been shared over 30,000 times. The comments were pouring in. That wasn't an eye roll. That was exhaustion. She sounds like my mom. My heart hurts. She needs to go live again. I want to hear more. I wasn't overwhelmed. But I knew this was it. Second chance. And second chances don't come often. 3 days later I went live again. This time I came prepared. Behind me I'd hung an old photograph. Me and my late husband standing outside our little home 30 years ago. I looked into the lens and slowly opened the drawer. Pulled out an old faded property deed. You've seen my son's version of the story, I said. Now let me show you mine. I held up the first page. The name, Lin Chiolon. Date of issue, 1993. No dramatic monologue. I just flipped page by page. Then I held up a copy of the nursing agreement. I read the line aloud. Guarantor agrees to asset transfer in exchange for premium senior care. I paused. Looked directly at the camera. That's why my house is no longer in my name. I stayed calm, completely still. Then I reached for a stack of papers. Receipts from the mortgage I paid, grocery bills, tutoring fees, preschool deposits. All with dates. All with my name. They said I'm freeloading. Said I'm living off my son. But look at these. Who's really been paying for what? The chat slowed down. Then came the shift. I believed that viral video, but now I feel sick. That house was hers. Why the hell did they take it? My grandma went through something just like this. Then I took out my phone and played a recording. It was my daughter-in-law's voice, whispering on the day I signed the form. As long as she signs, we can move the house. Don't worry. I didn't say anything. I just sat there. So, finally I spoke. I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing it for truth. Being a mother doesn't mean giving up your dignity. Chapter 7. I'm not your mother, I'm the villain in your story? I thought they'd stay quiet for a while. But barely a day after my second live stream, my grandson fired back with one of his own. His eyes looked misty. His voice cracked with practiced pain. Please don't be fooled by edited videos. I didn't know about any of that stuff, she said. Yes, she raised me, but she chose that life. Now she's trying to twist the truth just to make us look bad online. Then he pulled out a photo. It was me, sitting in a lawn chair at the care center, soaking in the sun. He said, "Does that look like someone who's suffering? She lives in a private suite, gets 3 catered meals a day. This isn't about justice, it's about control. She wants us to feel guilty forever." The comments started rolling in. Honestly, some elders do use guilt to manipulate. This is why parenting shouldn't be transactional. I feel bad for this guy, just trying to make it, and now he's getting mobbed. I didn't shake. I didn't rage. For the first time I was calm. Because I saw it clearly now. He wasn't defending the truth. He was defending his narrative. In his version of the story, I'm the controlling, ungrateful mother. And he's the loyal, misunderstood son. Gets him sympathy, views, money. And he couldn't afford to let that version die. I stared at the screen and remembered something I once read. The moment you stop letting people use you, they say you've changed. That night I didn't go live. I did 2 things instead. First, I contacted my lawyer. We gathered everything, documents, audio clips, transfer records, and filed for legal action, including a property freeze order. Second, I reached out to a nonprofit investigative channel. I sent them everything. My photos, my side of the story, the documents. I was done telling stories. Let the evidence speak for itself. 2 days later, a video dropped. Title: From Villain to Victim. The truth behind the grumpy grandma story. It hit the trending page. Heart. The comments flipped like a switch. She's not bitter. She's a mother who gave too much. He used her life for content, then called her manipulative? This is financial abuse in plain sight. My account exploded, followers pouring in. My lawyer called. The asset freeze had been approved. The house was on its way back. Later that night, I checked my grandson's profile. His latest post read, "Thanks to everyone for the support. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to be a better man." I stared at it for a moment. Then I shut my phone. You're not trying to be a better man. You're just trying to write a better story. Chapter 8. He came to me with roses and tears. That night, just after finishing my live stream, I received a message. It was from my son. "Mom, I'm downstairs. I want to talk. Please give me a chance. I promise I'll explain everything." I stared at the message for a while. Once he was the boy who always smiled at me, full of hope and love. Now in my heart he had become a selfish, cold man. All the love and affection I had given him over the years had been buried under lies and expectations. I hesitated, but in the end I decided to meet him. I put on some simple loungewear and walked downstairs. When I opened the door, I saw him standing there holding a bouquet of roses. His eyes were red, clearly from crying. "Mom," his voice was low, filled with desperation. "What do you want to talk about?" I didn't move, standing still at the door looking at him. He looked down, took a deep breath. "I know I was wrong, Mom. I really regret it. I shouldn't have treated you like that. I just wanted you to depend on me. I wanted you to feel like I could take care of you too. I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. You gave me so much, I shouldn't have seen you as a burden." His voice cracked and tears fell. "Mom, please give me another chance." I looked at him and there was no surge of anger, just a deep, steady emptiness. I had heard these words too many times before. "I've heard these same words for 30 years, I said coldly. He froze for a moment, confused. "You know, Lin Yu," I continued in a low, calm voice, "I'm not your tool. I'm not the perfect mother for you to show off to others. I'm a woman with dignity. I have my own life." I looked directly at him, took a deep breath and said firmly, "What you need is a chance, but what I need I've already lost." He looked stunned. The regret in his eyes deepened. "Mom." Just as he reached out to take my hand, a car suddenly stopped in front of us. A man I didn't recognize stepped out of the car. He was dressed in a suit, his expression stern. "Lin Yu," the man said coldly, "I'm the one who called him here." I stared at the familiar yet unfamiliar face, shocked. "Dad." He nodded slightly, his gaze shifting to my son, his eyes filled not with love but with years of restrained anger. "You let your mother live in a nursing home, took her property and did this. You don't deserve to call her your mother," he said angrily to Lin Yu. I watched as Lin Yu's face turned pale in an instant. He seemed to have never seen his father this furious before. What are you saying?" Lin Yu stuttered. "I'm giving you one last chance to realize what you've done," my father said, his voice cold. "You don't deserve to play the son in front of her anymore." Lin Yu stood frozen, unable to respond. Then my daughter-in-law walked out from behind the door. Her expression was full of contempt. "What are you two going to argue about now?" she sneered. "Even if your father is here, it doesn't change anything. Neither of you has the right to criticize him." Her voice was mocking, her gaze full of ridicule. I didn't look at her. I just turned, ready to go back inside. Lin Yu tried to grab my hand. "Mom, please don't go. Give me a chance." Chance. I turned to face him, my eyes completely cold now. "I've already given you 30 years of chances. From now on, I don't live for you anymore." With that, I slammed the door shut. From that moment on, I never looked back at them again. Chapter 9. Return of Property, Recovering Reputation. After I decided to completely cut ties with Lin Yu, something inside me finally settled. The heartache, the anxiety about the future. It all started to fade. I began redefining my life. The legal battles were moving forward and the scales of justice were tipping in my favor. My lawyer's team uncovered some damning facts. Lin Yu and Xiaolin had illegally transferred my property under the guise of a care agreement, without my consent. What made it worse was that Lin Yu had deliberately ignored clauses in the contract about the transfer of assets. They had tried to exploit my age and poor health to take everything I had worked for. And that was what truly enraged me. It wasn't just betrayal. It was an insult to everything I had sacrificed. I didn't hesitate. Through court investigation, the ruling came in. The property transfer was invalid, and all assets should be returned to Lin Qiulan. The property and money they had unlawfully taken would not only be returned, but they would also face hefty compensation charges. The moment the court made its decision, I held that official document in my hands and walked back to my old house. This place had once been my and my late husband's dream, a place where I had sacrificed my youth for my children. And now all of it was finally back in my hands. I sat by the window watching the familiar scenery outside. I silently thanked myself. I didn't give up and I didn't bow down. But just as I was sitting there, Lin Yu and Xiaolin suddenly appeared at my door. Mom. Mom. Lin Yu's voice was filled with urgency. We need to talk. I looked at them coldly and sneered. You've come at the right time. I was just about to talk to you. Lin Yu's face was full of worry and he came closer. Mom, we were wrong. Please don't be angry anymore. We'll return the house to you, we'll return the money. Just forgive us. Give us one more chance. I stood up holding the court ruling and showed it to them. What do you want from me? Do you want me to keep giving and let you feel like nothing has changed? I've given you enough chances. It's not you who deserves a second chance. It's you who doesn't deserve anything. Xiaolin suddenly lowered her head and with a guilty tone said, Mom, we were wrong. Can you forgive us? I didn't answer. I just pushed them aside and walked toward the door. I already let go of you too. I said it calmly and locked the door behind me. In that moment I felt peace. My life was back in my own hands. From now on, I wouldn't live in anyone else's shadow again. Chapter 10. The beginning of a new life and unknown challenges. After the court ruling, I officially moved out of the nursing home and back into my old house. This time I wasn't living for anyone else anymore. I wasn't carrying the weight of anyone's expectations. This house, once filled with the noise of family and endless chores, now stood still and quiet. It was just me. Free. On my first day back, sunlight streamed through the curtains, casting long shadows on the wooden floor. I sat on the couch looking out the window. For the first time I was alone. There were no voices asking for this or that. No one trying to teach me what being a mother was supposed to mean. At that moment my heart felt lighter than it had in years. I was no longer living for others. I was living for me. But new challenges quickly appeared. I didn't go back to being a housewife. I didn't return to that tiring life of endless labor. I started to think about what I really wanted to do. I remember thinking before, once the kids are older, I'll do something for myself. But now the kids didn't need me anymore, and for the first time I had a chance to do what I wanted to do. So I signed up for a pottery class. I decided to start from the basics. My first class was at a small studio in the city center. The air in the studio was thick with the smell of clay. The sound of the pottery wheel turning was soothing, almost meditative. This wasn't my old life. I wasn't doing something to please anyone else. I was doing something for me. But just like anything new, I faced challenges. Pottery seemed simple, but each time I tried to mold the clay, it didn't come out as I expected. Especially that one time I made a deformed bowl. It didn't even resemble a bowl. It was just a pile of messy clay. My fingers hurt from molding the clay, but I kept going. After class I felt defeated. I got home and saw an old photo on the table. It was a picture of my husband and me when we were young. I smiled at it, but I didn't realize back then just how difficult the road ahead would be. As I sat there lost in thought, my phone rang. Mom, can we talk? There's something we need to clear up. It was Lin Yu. My heart sank. I had no interest in getting involved with them again, but there was still a soft spot inside me that couldn't completely shut the door. I sighed, picked up the phone and dialed. Go ahead, I said. Lin Yu's voice was nervous. Mom, about the house. We've figured out a way to get it back, or if you want something else, just forgive us. Give us a chance. I didn't answer immediately. I just listened to him. I know I was wrong, Mom. Really wrong. His voice dropped. Give me a chance. We'll start over. I promise I'll never let you suffer again. I set the phone down and sat in silence for a long time. Yes, their apology was still filled with selfishness and hypocrisy. I wouldn't let their empty promises ruin the new life I had fought so hard to build. However, the challenges had only just begun. I knew that moving forward I'd be facing not just them, but the complexities of living alone in this new chapter. I still had to find who I truly was. Chapter 11. Strange Challenges in the New Life and the Choice of Self-Awareness. The first month in my new house was a whirlwind of new tasks. From dealing with daily chores to reorganizing my home to making connections with my neighbors, everything felt both fresh and foreign. What made me uneasy, though, was my interactions with these new people. I knew I wasn't the same person who silently sacrificed for her family anymore. Now I had to face relationships where I was the center. Relationships that demanded a new version of me. One day my neighbor Aunt Lee invited me over for a lunch gathering. She was a retired doctor around my age with a bright personality. We got along well and found common ground easily. She looked at me and said, "Mrs. Lin, I'm sure you've gathered so many interesting stories over the years. Us old folks gather just to chat about the past. You need to adjust to your new life too." Her words were warm, and for the first time in a long while, I realized how much I missed sharing little moments of life with others. However, after lunch she suddenly brought up something. "You know, Mrs. Lin, people are still talking about you. That grumpy grandma video really went viral. I know it was a misunderstanding, but that label sticks with you. Have you thought about how to completely shake off that negative image?" I froze. I thought I had already moved on. I thought I had stepped out of the shadow of that grumpy grandma label and was finally living for myself. But now even a new friend couldn't avoid bringing up my past. Aunt Lee seemed to sense my discomfort and continued, "I'm not trying to bring you down. I just think that, people are still talking about that video. You might want to do something to change their perspective." I lowered my head, thinking for a moment. Suddenly I felt a heavy pressure. I didn't want to be tied to the past anymore. That video was just a moment in time. It didn't define who I was. But even so, I couldn't completely escape the shadow of it. That evening I once again picked up my phone and looked at the comments online. There were still plenty of criticisms and mockery. Seeing her pictures, I realized she's living well. Don't let her fool you, the house wasn't hers to begin with. It was a deal made by others. That's not bravery. It's revenge. She's just showing off her wealth and lifestyle. My heart sank again. Even though I had moved on, people still wouldn't let me shed that label. Just then my phone rang. It was my lawyer. "Mrs. Lin, we have some updates. The court has approved your asset recovery request. Tomorrow you can officially move into your own home. Everything will be returned to you." For a moment I was speechless. Then everything clicked. All the effort, all the pain had finally paid off. I was no longer the one being controlled. The next day I stood at the door of my new home, taking a deep breath. I didn't know what the future would bring, but I knew I was free at last. Just as I was about to step inside, a black sedan pulled up in front of my door. The window rolled down, and there looking at me was a familiar face. My ex-husband. Chapter 12. Facing the return of my father and the complex emotions of my family. That day I had just finished organizing my new house, ready to finally relax. Suddenly there was a knock at the door. A rapid, persistent knock that shattered the peace. I walked over to the door, opened it, and found my father standing there. "Dad." I looked at him, surprised, a question rising in my mind. "What are you doing here?" He hesitated for a moment, his face filled with mixed emotions. "I came to see you to talk." "What do you want to talk about?" I didn't invite him inside. I stayed standing in the doorway, my expression distant. He sighed and spoke quietly. "Lin, you told me you got all your assets back." I nodded, waiting for him to continue. I know things between you and Lin you are complicated, he said, his tone serious. But he's your son. You can't just cut him off like this. Family matters aren't something you can resolve so easily. I frowned. What do you mean, Dad? He paused, then continued, his voice hesitant. You know, Lin Yu's just a kid. He made mistakes, yes. But he did it for you. He wanted to take care of you to make sure you wouldn't have to worry. You can't just end things like this. I listened, my heart heavy with emotions I didn't want to confront. I knew he wasn't speaking just for me, but also for the sense of paternal responsibility and pride he had carried all his life. Dad, I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. I know you want me to forgive Lin Yu. But this is no longer just about forgiveness. You might not understand, but I can't keep living for him anymore. I saw a flicker of pain cross my father's face. He lowered his head silently for a moment, before finally looking up at me with eyes full of emotion. Don't you regret it? He asked quietly. I shook my head. No. I don't regret it because it's made me see things more clearly. He seemed to realize he couldn't change my mind and sighed deeply. You've always been a strong woman. I just wanted to tell you, no matter what, we're still family. I stood silently for a while, then slowly replied, family can betray you. But I'm no longer just a family member in your eyes. I'm living for myself now. He was speechless. He stood there for a long time, then slowly turned to leave. I closed the door behind him, feeling no sense of release. His words pierced through a wall inside me, making me realize that even the closest family members, their expectations aren't always for my own good. I stood in the center of my house, staring at my new surroundings. I took a deep breath and sat back down. I knew now more than ever that I was going to walk this path with more determination. But just as I had let go of my father, Lin Yu showed up at my door again. Chapter 13. Loneliness, the garden and the unfinished cup of coffee. Life after independence wasn't as carefree and glowing as TV dramas made it seem. For the first couple of weeks I stuck to a routine. Wake up early, cook breakfast, do the laundry, soak up some sun, attend pottery class, read a few pages from a novel. I tried to structure my day, to give it purpose. But as the days wore on, I began to see the truth. That purpose was just a bandage covering up the silence. Every evening I came home to a house that was so quiet it rang. No one called out, "Mom, is dinner ready?" No one knocked on my door asking for my bank password. There were no arguments, no complaints, no warmth. Total freedom meant total loneliness. I used to believe all I ever wanted was a space of my own. But sitting alone in that big empty living room, listening to the tick of the clock on the wall, I realized something. Freedom and loneliness are just a thin wall apart. I tried to stay busy. I signed up for a floral design class. I planted roses, lavender, and hydrangeas. I transformed my tiny balcony into a blooming garden. I even chose every tile on the floor myself. The neighbors would often stop by and compliment the flowers. I'd smile and thank them. But deep down I felt none of it filled the hollow space in me. One afternoon I sat in a corner cafe staring blankly out the window. I'd ordered a black coffee but hadn't taken a single sip. That's when I noticed a familiar figure walk in. It was Mr. Wang from my pottery class. A retired art professor, gentle, respectful, soft-spoken. He always greeted me with a nod but never pried. He looked surprised to see me. "Mrs. Lin? You come here too?" I nodded. He hesitated, then asked, "Mind if I sit?" I nodded again. He sat down and without asking, ordered me a fresh cup of hot coffee. "I've noticed something," he said quietly. "You always smile but your eyes look tired. Kind of empty." I froze for a moment. I didn't expect anyone to notice or care. He didn't ask about my past. Instead he talked about simple things. "Your balcony's stunning. I walk past it often. It has a lovely balance. And that deformed bowl you made? I think it's got artistic flair." We talked for a long time. About flowers, classic films, travel. That afternoon marked the first time since living alone that I spoke so freely to someone with no blood ties to me. Before we parted ways, he said, "If you're free sometime, let's visit an art exhibit. I think you'd enjoy it." I nodded but gave no promise. Because I didn't know if I was ready. Ready to feel again. Ready to let someone in. Chapter 14. Reunion in the exhibition hall. Another 2 weeks passed. I continued living my quiet, solitary routine. Then one afternoon my phone lit up with a message. "Mr. Wong, there's a sculpture exhibit tomorrow. Would you like to go together? I already bought the tickets." I stared at the message for a long time. In the past I would have politely declined. "Don't trouble yourself. Maybe next time. I'm fine on my own." But that day, I don't know why, I simply replied, "Sure." The next day we met outside the downtown art museum. The sunlight was soft. He wore a slate blue cardigan and handed me a warm soy milk. "Morning's a bit chilly," he said. "Can't go walking through art on an empty stomach." I took it and something stirred quietly inside me. It had been a long time since someone noticed the small things. The museum was quiet, calm. The first sculpture we saw was of an old woman bending down to pick up a dropped paintbrush. Mr. Wong glanced at it, then at me. "That reminds me of you," he said. "Me?" I chuckled. "I don't even paint." "It's not about painting," he said gently. "It's that look. The kind of strength it takes to kneel down and start gathering the pieces of life even after everything has fallen apart." I was stunned. He continued, eyes on the sculpture. "You know, some people go their whole life without ever living for themselves. But you did. That's rare. That's beautiful." And just like that, something inside me softened. I used to think kindness was a luxury. But now I realize, true kindness is when someone sees you, really sees you, and doesn't flinch. We finished the exhibit and stood near the exit. He smiled. "I remember you once said during pottery class that you used to love drawing." I nodded. "There's a small art group at the community center. They meet on weekends. No pressure, no competition. Just people painting whatever they want." I laughed, a little embarrassed. It's been so long, my hands might have forgotten how to hold a brush. "Then retrain them," he said with a playful shrug. "At our age, shouldn't we finally start chasing the dreams we never dared to?" I didn't reply. But in my heart, a door quietly creaked open. That night, I went home and dug out an old sketchbook from the back of my closet. The cover was yellowed, the pages curling. But the drawings still carried a faint warmth, like a dream that never really died. I sat on my balcony, turned on a small lamp, and picked up a pencil. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. I finally understood what a beginning truly means. Not running away but learning to love life again. Chapter 15. The farewell before the exhibition opening. Preparing for the exhibit was more exhausting than I'd imagined. Mr. Wong helped me book a small community gallery space. He insisted, "These aren't just drawings. They're raw and honest. People will feel them." At first I didn't plan to make it public. Just a quiet display, to close a chapter for myself. But Mr. Wong had other ideas. He invited classmates from pottery class, friends from the flower club, even neighbors who passed by my blooming balcony. Posters started showing up at the library, cafes, even the gym. For the first time in my life, my story became an exhibition. The night before opening, I sat alone in the studio staring at the final piece on the wall. It was called Reset. A woman sitting on a stone in the middle of an open field, her back to the world, a broken paintbrush in her hand. It wasn't sad. It felt clean, like the beginning of something new. Late that night, as shadows from the trees danced outside my window, my phone rang. It was Lin Yu. I stared at his name for a long moment, and then I picked up. "Mom." His voice was low and raspy, almost unfamiliar. "I heard your exhibit opens tomorrow. I was wondering if I could come, just to see it." I said nothing. He continued, I know an apology can't undo what I did. But lately, I've been thinking a lot about you. You used to be the person I admired most. And he turned you into my personal item. His voice cracked. If you can't call me your son anymore, I understand. But I just want to see what you look like now, standing back up again. I listened, not angry anymore. Just still. I said, tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Don't be late. The next morning the exhibit opened. There weren't many people, but the energy was warm. Families, couples, elderly neighbors. They moved slowly through the room, pausing quietly in front of the work. Mr. Wong stood in the corner, giving me a silent thumbs up. At exactly 10 o'clock, Lin Yu appeared at the entrance. He looked simple, nervous. He walked slowly through the gallery until he stopped in front of Reset. He stood there for a long time. I joined him. He whispered, "This is you." I nodded. "This is who I am now." His throat moved. "I never imagined you carried so much. So many pictures in your heart." I gave him a faint smile. "You always thought I was the sun orbiting around you. But you forgot, I used to be a star of my own." His eyes reddened. And finally I said the words I'd been holding in for years. "I don't hate you anymore. I'm not waiting for your apology either. But you need to understand, being a mother is not a duty. It's a choice. I chose to love you. And now I choose to love myself." He said nothing. Just nodded. We stood together in silence. And in that moment, I knew the past had finally let me go. After the exhibit I received many messages. "Will you be releasing more art?" I smiled softly, turned off the phone and walked out to the balcony. The sun had broken through the clouds. I picked up a clean sheet of paper, held the brush to it gently, and began my second life. Final chapter, epilogue. The rest of my life is safe. I am no longer someone else's but myself. Years later, I sit by the lake watching sunlight dance across the surface. Beside me is a wooden easel. My canvas holds just a few soft strokes of water and sky. I haven't decided how to finish it. A few steps behind, Mr. Wong is organizing his sketchbooks. Sometimes we talk for hours. Other times we sit in comfortable silence. We're not lovers, not partners. We're simply two people who once fell and chose to stand back up, lucky enough to meet each other along the way. It's been a long time since I said the word mother out loud. Not because I've denied it, but because I finally understand. I can be a mother, but I don't have to be defined by it. For 30 years I poured everything into loving others. But I forgot, loving myself takes strength too. I once thought life revolved around family, like a center of gravity. But when that center shattered, I realized something. I could also be a straight line, pointing anywhere I choose to go. Lin Yu sometimes sends postcards now. Simple notes. "Today I saw an old woman with a cane and it reminded me of you teaching me how to walk." I write back, "Thank you for remembering me. I hope you're living well too." I no longer resent him. And I don't wait for him to understand me anymore. I was his mother. I lived that role with everything I had for 30 years. And that was enough. Now I am simply Lin Chuan. Not someone's someone. Not the bitter mother. Not the misunderstood woman in the comments. I'm the one who gardens, paints, bakes bread, laughs out loud in spring, and doesn't fear the falling leaves in autumn. Sometimes a neighbor's child will ask me, "Grandma Lin, isn't it too late to start painting?" I always smile and say, "It's never too late. As long as I still wake up tomorrow, it's still just the beginning." And now I know. Not all mothers must be martyrs. Not all women need to trade their dreams for a household. You can be whole all by yourself.